Amma, as well as the names of its top-ranking students whom for the first time since more than 3 decades did not achieve a GPA of 100%. This year, we witnessed the end of that fake 100% GPA era, and we have students who can actually think and not memorize the textbooks and the questions of the special tutors lessons that created that era. In order to know more, we're very much honored to have with us Dr. Nabil Gad, education expert, to tell us more on the new system of Sanawiyya Amma and his advice to both the parents and the students. It was very difficult year for the students and for their families. Thank you very much, Dr. Nabil, for being with us.
Most welcome.
Thank you.
As you've just mentioned, it's difficult because it's the beginning. The bottleneck is always so difficult. However, before I start saying anything, let me congratulate heartily all the top ranking students of the Thanawiyya Amma who really proved that they are worthy of what they have achieved. Their scores are far much better than expected. The new system of exams is not something new. The MCQ system, multiple choice questions, actually is not an easy task for the ones who set the exams. I read recently on the Facebook from one of my colleagues that usually about 300 MCQs are set for one subject. And this is not an easy thing to do. However, cheating is fought bitterly nowadays. And one of the positive points I would like to mention, there of course are positive points and negative points. Let's concentrate on the positive points. The positive point that in spite of the corona pandemic, the exam process passed easily in a safe and sound atmosphere, which is something to be given a credit for the Ministry of Education, not only this year, but last year as well. However, the fake, as you mentioned, Ms. Hala, the fake 100% plus, which was in the past, actually was something so ridiculous. I myself, if I am the one who sets the final exams, cannot achieve this more than perfect. So the real scores that our students or learners achieve this year is something to reflect their thinking. Number two is that the exam of one person sitting to the right is different from the one to the left. The multiple choice questions need somebody who is a thinker, and that's what we are after nowadays. In the past, it was just a bookish flow and memory that people, sorry to use this term, vomited on the answer sheet and they get whatever they get. I also wonder that the centers, by the way, I'm so surprised that in Arabic broadcast people, a lot of people say senator, which is not acceptable. They say Marakis, if they say it in, or they say it in English centers. However, this is a side story. Students have to use their brain and think, because we are after thinking. Gone are the days when the bookish information was the A1 priority for our students, right? I really wonder that nowadays, in spite of what the wonderful achievements that happened, so many people shoot poisonous arrows at the people in charge of the educational system, headed by His Excellency the Minister. The Minister does not work alone. He works with a team of experts, and there is a roadmap, there is a good vision that was respected, and everybody works honestly, sincerely, day and night to achieve the vision and the policy that we need to reform and develop education in all aspects of it. We should not be defeatists. And there are so many I'm sorry to say, success enemies. And these people want to destroy, not to construct. We are after construction. Building New Egypt for the future needs all the mental powers, and as we all know and hear nowadays, we are in the era of digitalization. This digitalization process needs the thinkers, not the people who have only to learn by heart and then have it on the paper. The multiple choice needs someone to think. And those who got the highest scores, we heard, as the media mentioned so many times after the result of ثانوية عامة, as he called it, that's the term we use nowadays, that the percentage of the total grades has been 100% at least less than before. And this is a true picture of what happened.
So, Dr. Ged, you believe that this year we took the right step and we took some steps in moving towards looking for students who understand and who and not who memorize.
That's right.
Y- how how big of a step did we take? I mean, how much more do we still have in in the path towards that goal? That's the first question. The second one is, yes, the multiple choice needs thinkers, but you could get it by chance, couldn't you? And so isn't there a way to link between also because memorizing, after all, is an important talent. Even if you know, in any work, you would make faster decisions if you know, if everything comes to your mind instantly because you memorize it. So also memorization is important. I'm sure you believe in that.
Sure.
So how do we improve more on what we have? Because there is always room for improvement, sir. And I'm sure you believe that.
Memorizing cannot be denied, especially for verses of, say, the Holy Quran, for instance, for poetry. But it needs also to think before we choose the answer. And by the way, a system which is very nice followed here in Egypt. I had the MCQ questions abroad when I was studying for my graduate studies. And there is a system not applied so far in Egypt, and I think it will not be applied, that if you commit a mistake, it gives a penalty that omits a couple of correct things.
Uh-huh.
If you get just one by chance, it will not be the general rule, because
But we still haven't applied this.
it isn't applied as
Yeah.
as far as I've
But that's more fair. That's more
not
fair.
to have the penalty system.
No, to have the penalty system.
To have the penalty system.
So because we want to subside the luck,
the luck,
factor.
the
Yeah.
chance,
Yeah.
to have it by chance,
Yeah.
haphazardly chosen.
Yeah.
That's right. So if it is applied, it will be a little bit harsh, severe, but it will show us the ones who already choose the correct answer.
Confidently. Yeah.
Yes, confidently. Another thing that is noticed this year, that the human factor is not interfered.
Mhm.
There has nothing called essay writing or composition, what we called it. That used to be for subjective appreciation for the marker or the corrector. So somebody would give it 9 out of 10, another one would give it 5.
Yeah.
So that has been abolished.
The arbitrary factor.
So yeah, so that's an advantage.
Yes.
If you want me to talk about the negative points, I'm not going to magnify them, but only to recommend how can we avoid them in the future. Of course, for everything there is positives
Yeah.
and negatives.
Yeah.
There are pros and cons. Let us say that the positive things we have to magnify. The work of the examination teams are praiseworthy efforts, and they did a lot. They were inspired by the leadership policy and directives and instructions all the time. And this is something as a policy for a better future. I'm afraid that some people still believe in the wrong slogan, forward never, backward never. Forward ever, backward ever. This is a right slogan. The slogan they have, I mean, these defeatists or the success enemies, they say, forward never, backward ever. They are so traditional. They want to stick to the past without any change. Change is the symptom of life. It's dynamic. It's not static at all. As for my recommendations for the negative points that took place, we heard only about 500 something cheating cases, and they were uh, referred to the Attorney General, and they will have their fair punishment, and this will set a lesson for those who would try it in the future. The other negative point is that our teachers, I'm afraid to say, were not well trained for the new system of MCQs. Another point may be that we started from year one in secondary the secondary stage, not from the primary stage. No problem. It's actually a jump. And this jump has its victims. The victims are those who are wailing all the time, mourning. And by the way, you mentioned, Ms. Hala, something about the worry of the parents.
Yes.
And let me focus on that. The parents are actually a major factor of the tension that our young learners have. They have to be encouraging, backing them up all the time. Don't tell them all the time, you are a failure. It's the system, it's the tyranny of the system. No, we have to look at the bright points, magnify them, and encourage our students to do whatever they can at their best of their efforts.
Yeah.
Another point I would like to mention is the coverage of the net.
Mm.
I'm afraid there could be in villages, in faraway places, I mean remote
We
areas.
definitely need better infrastructure when
Exactly.
it comes to online. And,
When
and actually, this became very clear, Dr. Gad,
sure,
during the pandemic.
right,
When we started the pandemic and shifting to the online system in so many fields, not only academic, but in
sure,
so many fields, actually made us realize how important it is to have a strong infrastructure when it comes to the internet. So, do you believe that the coronavirus pandemic has contributed to raising the awareness towards the importance of the field of information technology? How important is information technology? How important it is to be familiar with using the system, with using the tools available online? Do you think so?
of course, it's absolutely correct and necessary all the time. What pleased me is that even the step of having the application of the new system of exams from first year secondary, the students had 3 years ago the tablet, which was freely given to them. And moreover, before the final exam of Thanawi Amma, there were 2 or 3 experimental exams. Some students refrained from going there. And by the way, when you mentioned the word pandemic, let me use this word that there is a pandemic, I'm afraid not to happen, a pandemic of ignorance that may spread, a pandemic of illiteracy, and a pandemic of unawareness. So if we fight these 3 pandemics, I think we will get better and better results.
I have a question here,
Sure.
Dr. Gad. We want your advice to the parents on that point. There is no question that the government did a great job. The coordination between the Education Ministry, the Health Ministry, you know, allowing the attendance at some times and telling people to stay at home at other times, or giving the choice to the people, and in third times it was done greatly in a way that comforted parents and that saved and protected children.
Mhm.
But the online for those who chose to stay online, it was not the school's problems or the teachers' problems. In some cases, it was the children's problems, because especially those young children, when they sit at home, they are taking the online course. They're playing games. They have this window open, split into two, so they attend
Wearing
the
their pajamas even,
Yes.
taking
so
lessons.
Right.
they attend the lesson, and they play games, and they don't really listen. But when they are forced to go to school, when their parents choose the campus option, they go and they learn.
Sure.
But they take the risk of
The
it's
The
a little
infection.
risk,
the
yeah,
pandemic.
of the infection. So what do we do here? How do we balance between this and that? And how do we make our youngsters
Parents were faced with very tough
choices?
choices and
Yeah.
decisions.
As I mentioned earlier, the solution is in one word: awareness. If we have the awareness and the positive points to be magnified, not ignoring, but avoiding the negative points, and finding solutions for them in the future. The going to school, I'm afraid to say, is not a must, and so many of our learners or students go to the centers, as we saw, and that causes a lot of expenditure from their parents. They pay a lot of money. God
Yeah.
would help them.
And
Let-
others take lessons at home.
Sure.
Yeah, in
It
groups,
happens,
or,
it
or
happens.
even solo.
It happens. It
Yeah.
happens. Yeah. The private
Yeah,
the
tutoring.
private lesson
Yeah.
is or tutoring is actually a virus that we should get rid of, as we are trying to get rid of the coronavirus. By the way, a friend of mine who was on the phone with me, a VIP person who was an ex-minister, I'm not going to mention the name, she asked me about the admission in the universities this year. What about the matriculation, those who got foreign certificates? Actually, I told her that let me say this request for you, and I think the people in the Ministry of Education will find the answer for your question. So, to be honest, I'm just conveying her question. Another friend of mine who was a a deputy minister for in one of the upper Egyptian governorates, also told me, please press on the training of the teachers, not only for a month or a couple of weeks for the new system, but for a whole year. We already learned in the traditional way of the past. And people in Europe or US or whatever country it is in the world, the teachers themselves are well trained for the new system. So it's not something unfamiliar for the students when they sit for such exam. I wish the best of luck, and our students are to be sympathized with and encouraged at the same
Yes.
time, not
Yes.
discouraged.
Yes. Dr. Gad, ثانوية عامة curricula was available only in the electronic form this year, and no, there were no textbooks printed. How do you assess that? Is that the pros or the cons?
Cons, yeah. I think I mentioned earlier the policy of the open book policy. This open book policy may waste the time of the examinee if he is not aware enough of all the items of
Yeah.
the syllabus here.
Yeah.
If he is aware and he has studied and surveyed everything in a diligent, intelligent way, he will be at a loss in the exam. He will lose time. He will not cover. That's why some people complained of saying very difficult exam. On what level of difficulty did you measure it? The measure of difficulty is built and based on mere scientific educational terms and criteria. So we wish them the best of luck, and we wish for a better future, and we will benefit from all our mistakes in the future. God's will.
Yes, Dr. Ged, definitely, as you mentioned, that we've taken a good step forward,
A gigantic step,
a gigantic step in your words.
developing education.
Yes, in developing education here in Egypt. Uh, but the fact that the results came down, I mean, the average score came down, puts pressure on the families
Mm.
and the students as well. So next year, the issue of the Thanawiyya Amma pressure, we're just trying to be realistic here,
Mm.
is going to come back a little bit. And people from the very start, families and students from the very start, are going to feel a bit of a pressure. Although, as you mentioned, we've taken a good, gigantic step forward. So what's your advice to the parents and to the students so as how to face this pressure, or to try to,
Minimize it at
yeah,
least.
yeah.
You know, when the results of the admission, according to the coordination committee, if we call it like this, مكتب التنسيق, will appear so soon, and the students and their parents will notice the less percentage of joining, say, the faculty of medicine, the faculty of engineering or whatever. They will see the difference, and maybe they will have the hope that next year it will be, if not the same, it will be lesser, because they know now that it's gone are the days when they were 100 plus, as I mentioned before,
Yeah.
which was fake, as you mentioned, Ms. Hala.
Ridiculous. Never happened in anywhere in the world.
At all, at all. As I told you before, if I am the one who sets the exam, I would not get the 100 plus. So
This
how
is a
did
Harvard student.
So how did this happen? It's really one of the miracles of the old system.
Yes. Okay, I also want to know why were the people afraid from the new educational system? Why was this sort of resistance, Dr. Gett?
It is the awesome feeling that everybody has. As I said, it's the bottle's neck. And anything new, actually, at the beginning, when you start reading or studying a certain subject at school, a scholastic subject, at the beginning you feel that it is so difficult. But once you get in and proceed and have courage enough, let me say something that would help our students all the time. I say it. Before you start, pray to Allah Almighty. He will help you. He'll give you the light. He will give you an open-minded thinking, broad-minded thinking as well, and a brain that could absorb everything. And let us use more than one sense. If you, it's just for reading
And learn.
and learn. If you read more than one sense, it would be the sense of utterly awareness of the topic in front of
And
you.
as you mentioned, Doctor, if the system or the new system requires modifications or
It
amendments,
will happen. It will happen.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it doesn't mean it's a failure. It means
no,
it's
no.
a new system
We will
that,
benefit from
by
the past.
experience, will come up with the solutions.
Sure. For all-
I'd like to thank you very much, Dr.
Most
Nabil
welcome.
Ged, our education expert. Thank you very much for being with
Most
It's been a great
welcome.
pleasure having you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Always.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Ged.
Thank you.
Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back.